Hello, it's good to see you. Today we're going to read some more of my story. I would have done it last weekend, but I had one of the worst migraine headaches that I've had literally in years, and it lasted from Friday morning all the way through Tuesday night. So it was really bad, and I had some Halloween stuff, some Halloween videos I wanted to get done, and that was really all I got done. And I got all of that done with a really bad headache. Anyway, I'm better now. I feel good now. But so we're going to get back to reading. We're still on the same chapter that we were on before. This is actually a very long chapter because Portia's telling you, basically, she's recounting these memories to you that she had. So we're still on chapter 28 in part 2. It's just an exceptionally long chapter. All right, so we're still in the middle of that chapter. We're on page 695 if you're interested. So I think we have less than 100 pages to go to get to the end of this story. All right, so this is the next memory that she had. Instructions were sent out by God a short time later that every angel would have to choose a side and declare their allegiance to it. Both God and Lucifer took time to speak publicly to state their plans and to try to encourage undecided angels to choose their side. In the end, just under half chose to fight for Lucifer and the rest sided with God. None of the angels were allowed to remain neutral or undecided. Phaedra went to Aiden's home as soon as she heard about his decision. She knocked on the door, and when he answered it, she saw the bracelet on his wrist. She scowled at it and made a sound of disgust. "How can you possibly?" She made a move to pull the bracelet off his wrist, but he pushed her back and slammed the door in her face. She looked in at him through a window on the porch. "You're a fool," she shouted, knocking over a nearby chair. "You'd throw away everything for her." Aiden watched her storm down the steps and off through the meadow below his house. He checked to make sure she hadn't damaged his bracelet, then got back to work on a painting. Next memory. The war started on a morning not long after Phaedra's visit to Aiden's house. Lucifer had about 3,000 followers, and God's side numbered around 5,000. The two sides faced each other in a large field, with Lucifer leading his side and God watching from a raised platform nearby. God held up a hand and called out to Lucifer. "Remind everyone of their choices," God said. "Tell them what they're fighting for today." Lucifer gripped his sword and glared at God. "They know why they're here," he said, turning to face his followers. "We're tired of the uncertainty. We're tired of being left behind by a God who doesn't care about us." God looked out at his creations with sadness for the way things had unfolded. "But what about the—" Lucifer cut him off with a loud cry, and he charged forth toward the opposing side. His followers fell in behind him. God's followers ran out to meet them, and the two sides clashed in the middle of the meadow. God watched the battle and pulled out the angels that were stricken more than 5 times. He placed them in separate holding pens nearby. God called out to Lucifer after the fighting had gone on for a while and asked him to give up. Lucifer refused. Aiden kept Portia as close to him as he could, but they were separated several times in the initial stage of the battle. He always found his way back to her. Phaedra moved through the chaos of the battle, defending herself when needed, but spending most of her time looking for Aiden and Portia. A lot of old grudges were fought out in the meadow that day, and fueled by her anger at Portia for Aiden's decision to join Lucifer's side, she moved through the mass of angels, ignoring possible strikes and focusing on finding them out there. She spotted Aiden first, and the sight of that bracelet on his wrist infuriated her. He had his back turned to her, and she struck his right side with her sword, leaving a large silver mark. Aiden whirled around and attempted to strike her back, but she dodged the blow. "You're going to be counted out," she growled, hitting him again. "He's going to pull you out. That's 2. Portia came up behind Phaedra and grabbed her by the hair, pulling her down to the ground and stomping on her neck. She held her foot there on Phaedra's neck for a moment, then struck her repeatedly with her sword. Phaedra had dropped her sword and tried to grab hold of Portia's, only managing to get several silver marks on her hands and forearms. Aidan watched in amazement. "Thank you," he said, and Phaedra thrashed about, looking wild-eyed at him. Portia held up her left hand, and God came over to check Phaedra's marks. "One more and she's out," God said, then moved on to another area in the battle. Portia, still holding Phaedra down, looked at Aidan. "It's up to you," she said. "Tell me what you want me to do." Aidan shook his head. "Let her up. Let her go." "Are you sure?" He looked down at her. "You don't want to be pulled out, do you?" Phaedra shook her head side to side as much as she was able. "Please let me go," she said, her voice weak and creaky. "I'll leave you alone. I swear it." "Okay," Aidan said, "but no more." Though she didn't want to, Portia lifted her foot up and let Phaedra scramble off. She grabbed her sword and disappeared into the battle without saying another word to either of them. The battle raged on for quite a long time before God sounded the alarm and announced that it was over. "Drop your weapons," he called out. "All of you." The angels that remained in the meadow all complied. Portia suffered 3 blows, and Aidan counted 4 on his body. "What happens now?" she whispered to him. He took her hand and moved in closer to her. "Whatever it is, we'll find out together." 2 words sealed the fate of every angel still standing in that meadow. God climbed to the top of his nearby platform, looked out at his creations, and shouted, "You lost." All of the angels lost. Some of them lost heaven, some of them lost dear friends and partners, and some were carried away to the capsules. They lost everything but their existence, which would be lived out, together but isolated, in individual pods on the edge of the universe. God couldn't bring himself to end the lives that he had created, but it may have been the more humane choice. God had designed a holding area for Lucifer's followers before the war began, and he commanded all of them to walk across the entire length of heaven to get there. The battle was over, and most of the angels were silent. Lucifer's followers separated themselves from the winners and began their journey. They hugged each other and held on to one another as they walked. The sadness was palpable, and God introduced tears to this group of angels for the first time. Some collapsed to the ground and cried for a while before they could move on. Portia and Aidan walked along with the others, taking time to look at everything around them. It would be the last time either of them would ever pass through. They walked through the meadow below Portia's house. She looked up at it, and the first tear fell from her eye. Aidan put his arm around her, and they continued walking. "We'll never," she started to say before she broke down in sobs. Aidan stopped and just held her. "It's okay," he said. She shook her head, still sobbing. "It's not. You were right. And he's not here with us. He left us." One of God's angels gently nudged her and asked her to keep moving. Aidan glared at him. "Give her a moment," he said. The angel glanced up at Portia's house, then back at her. "I'm just doing my job," he said. 2 more of God's angels approached, and they walked up to Aidan. "You have to come with us," one of them said. Aidan was still holding on to Portia. "Why?" "Just him?" Portia asked, gripping him tighter. "God needs to see you," one of the angels said, and then looked at Portia. "Alone." Aidan looked at her. "I'll be right back," he said, and he reluctantly walked back the way they had come with the 2 angels. The other angel who had nudged Portia told her again that she needed to keep moving. Portia didn't make it far before she felt a hand on her left shoulder. She was relieved at first, thinking Aidan had come back to her, but when she turned around to look, she saw Phaedra walking behind her. She immediately stopped and pushed Phaedra's arm away. "You!" Portia started to move away, but Phaedra grabbed her hand and started pulling her away from the others. Portia looked around, but all of Lucifer's other angels just kept walking. God's angels did the same. I want a minute of your time before you go, Phaedra said. I'm not supposed to stop. You'll catch up. Besides, you don't want to get too far ahead of Aiden, do you? Portia kept looking around, hoping to see Aiden, or at least another angel that might try to intervene. No one even looked her way. I want you to know that I'll never forgive you for this, Phaedra said. For what? It's your fault that Aiden chose to go with Lucifer. I don't know what's going to happen to you now, but whatever your fate may be, Aiden's going to suffer right alongside you. I never told him to do this. He would have followed you anywhere. You knew he'd do this. Portia started to speak, but Phaedra wouldn't let her. I know he doesn't love me. I've known that for longer than you've been around, but I never wanted this. I hold you responsible for everything that happens to him from this point forward, and if I am ever in a position to do it in the future, you can rest assured that I'll punish you every day of your life. You bitch. She raised her hand and slapped Portia to the ground. Portia quickly got up to her feet and lunged at Phaedra, but Phaedra dodged her and she fell to the ground again. She raised up on her hands and knees and looked off into the distance. We just wanted things to change, she said, wincing at a pain in her side. Change? What? Get up! Phaedra grabbed her left arm and jerked her up to her feet. Portia cried out and pulled her arm away. What's wrong with you? Phaedra asked. Pain. My side. She hugged herself. Pain? What does that feel like? Portia looked at her. You wouldn't understand. You're right. So you wanted things to change? I'd say you got your wish. Things won't ever be the same for you again. Phaedra looked out at the angels making their way through the meadow. She shook her head and then looked back at Portia. I hope it was worth it. She shoved Portia back toward the others. Get going, she said, disgusted. Remember what I said. I'll never forgive you, and I'll never forget. Portia moved on to walk with the other angels without looking back. Next memory. While all of the angels who chose to side with Lucifer and survive the war were sent off to another area, God himself escorted Lucifer away from the field of battle and toward the woods. They walked in silence to Lucifer's house, where they went inside and sat in the parlor. Lucifer sat down first, keeping his eyes on God. Where are they going? He asked. They. You assume you're not going too? Going where? Lucifer asked. Your angels seem to know where to take them. I think I deserve to know too. A holding area, God said, sitting back in his chair. They'll be there until I create a separate place for all of you. How long will that take? Takes as long as it takes. I have to design it first and then create it. Lucifer sat up a bit. Will we be near you? Will you come visit us? You are ready to banish me, God shouted, and the foundation of Lucifer's house shook. I will not spend my time with anyone like you. Please. Lucifer froze, and he looked at God in horror. What sort of outcome did you expect? God asked. I gave you everything you could ever want here. All of you. Why was that not enough? Why didn't you tell your followers about the compromise? Why drag them down with you? I wanted you here, Lucifer cried. All this, all these things, they don't matter if you're not here with me. I have other places to be, God said. You have other places you want to be. There's a difference. Lucifer stood up and walked to the window where Aiden had stood previously. You've created a beautiful place, he said, gesturing to heaven outside. But I was created to love and worship you. Heaven is nice, but it's not heaven if I can't be here with you. What is it then? God asked. What is what? This place. What would you call it? Give it a name. It hurts, Lucifer said, still looking out the window. Pain is still new to you, God said. Give it time. Lucifer turned away from the window and gave God a hard look. Pain is new to me? Hardly. I've known this feeling forever. You leave. I'm left here alone. But you're not, God started to say, but Lucifer cut him off. You aren't here. What do I care who else is around me if you're gone? I'm surrounded constantly by all your other creations, and they always need something from me. You're never here, so they all come to me. I'm surrounded by my own kind, but I'm alone. Don't you understand what that feels like? God stood up and approached him. Lucifer instinctively backed up a few steps. You mean you felt pain before now? He asked. I've been in pain forever, Lucifer said, looking away. Your absence hurts all of us. I've tried every way I could think of to get you to listen and really understand that. Nothing worked. I was desperate, so I declared war on me, God said. Lucifer nodded. Because you thought you could handle things better? No, to get your attention. Why is this so hard to understand? I can see what happens when you've had too much time alone, God said. You start to think too much of yourself. You imagine you're the creator of this place, but in reality, you're no more special than anybody else here. I don't want to be special. God headed for the door. There's nothing more to say. Stay here and be the master of your own house. Don't leave before I come back. God slammed the door shut behind him. He could hear Lucifer inside, begging him to come back before he looked upward and then vanished. Next memory. Aiden, Portia, and all of Lucifer's other followers were led away to a remote part of heaven. They came to a stop at the edge of a field. A hole had been dug out, and it was impossible for all the angels to tell at first glance just how large it was. Stone stairs led down into the hole, and the angels were instructed to go down the stairs single file. God's angels stood around the edge of the hole, making sure no one escaped. Aiden held on to Portia's hand, and she descended the stairs behind him. He said that he never met with God and that he was pulled away from her after a misunderstanding, or so he was told. Portia never told him about the incident with Phaedra. God appeared near the steps after all of Lucifer's angels were in the hole. He looked down at them with a mixture of sadness, pity, and contempt. A great number of angels were crying, looking up at him and begging for mercy. They wondered if they might die in that hole. I have to go, God said to them. Lucifer, he's been dealt with. Stay here until I return. With that, he lifted his arms upward, and a large black plane of opaque material formed above the pit and slowly started to fall from above. The angels crouched down in the hole and screamed. Aiden grabbed Portia and pulled her down, covering her body with his. She struggled to break free so she could look up and see what was happening. The large plate covered the pit completely, leaving only a few tiny slits of light to break through. God looked at the plate, now resting on the ground, and said that it was good. He ordered his angels to keep watch over the prisoners until he returned, and he vanished again. The light from all of the angels under the cover lit the area with a soft glow, and they had just enough room in the pit to stand upright and move around. Aiden and Portia slowly stood back up a short time later and looked around. The group was mostly silent for a while, then soft cries started welling up here and there. They comforted each other. Aiden led Portia over to one of the four corners of the pit, and they sat down there together. Aiden held her close. They're crying, Portia said quietly. Aiden looked around at the dimly lit silhouettes of the other angels nearby. We're in good company, he said. I was surprised by some of the other followers, I have to admit. You wanted to make a change. I understand that. You have no reason to apologize. You're stuck down here with us. That's why I'm sorry. I'm right where I want to be, Aiden said. He pointed up. Up there? Knowing you were down here? That's no place to be. How could I ever be happy up there again? He stroked her hair, and she relaxed into his chest. I'm so tired all of a sudden. Aiden straightened his legs out on the ground. Here, lie down. Portia laid herself down on the ground and rested her head in his lap. Why am I so tired? Close your eyes. She did. What do you suppose happened to Lucifer? She asked without opening her eyes. I don't know. I imagine he's detained somewhere. You don't think he... Oh, no. He'd never do that to Lucifer. He needs him too much to dispose of him. Don't worry about it just now. We'll find out soon, I'm sure. Portia opened one eye halfway and looked up at him. What about the rest of us? He reached down and brushed his fingers across her cheek. It's all going to be okay. There are too many of us. Wherever we go, we'll be going together. Portia fought to sit up a little. You have no way of knowing that. He soothed her and gently persuaded her to lie back down. I knew how this would turn out, didn't I? Let's just focus on the moment. Just the two of us here together. That's all that really matters anyway. Portia closed her eyes again, resting her head in Aiden's lap. I love you, she said for the first time. It caught Aiden by surprise, but his response was immediate. I've loved you longer. Chapter 27. Lucifer pulled Portia out of her sleep after only a short time. Aiden was standing nearby, and he made a move to help her sit up, but Lucifer shook his head. Give her a moment. Let her reorient herself. Portia slowly sat up on the sofa where Lucifer had laid her down. She looked at Lucifer and Aiden, and then back at Lucifer. What do you remember? Lucifer asked her gently. Are you feeling better? Portia stared at him for a minute as if he were a stranger, and then she jerked backwards, her eyes wide. You lied to us, she said. You lied. Aiden glanced at Lucifer, then back at her. What do you mean? He asked her. Before Portia could answer, Lucifer grabbed Aiden's hand, and Aiden collapsed to the floor. What did you do? Portia cried, and she got down on the floor with Aiden. She turned his face up to her own. He appeared to be in a deep sleep. Leave him there, Lucifer said. If you know what I think you know, I don't want him to hear this conversation. He helped Portia up to her feet. She gave him a hard look, but tried to contain her anger out of respect for his position. Tell me what you think I lied about, he said. Why didn't you tell us about the compromise? She asked. You said we only had two choices, but God, the compromise wouldn't have gotten me what I wanted, Lucifer said. I wanted God to stay with us. Did you learn about the terms of the compromise? He would have left us alone with no further contact. That's the exact opposite of what I wanted. But that's not right, Portia sputtered. It's not fair. You can't ask us all to risk everything without giving us all the information. Lucifer put his hands on Portia's shoulders, and she shivered a little at his touch. I'm sorry, he said. I wasn't thinking about anyone but myself. All I wanted... He dropped his hands off her shoulders and turned away from her, standing in silence. You missed him, she said. That's all that mattered. Not us, not our future. You weren't... Lucifer turned back around. I've spent most of my existence having to worry about everyone else. Just once, I focused on what mattered to me. Was it wrong of me to keep it from all of you? Yes. I've had plenty of time to think it over. Would I change it and do things differently if I could? He started to answer the question and then paused. He looked at Portia, a slightly fearful expression on his face. You wouldn't, she said, and she felt tears coming into her eyes. Don't you care about us at all? We've suffered without him too, you know. But you You have someone that you love. You're not going through this alone. That doesn't make what you did right, and you know it. Lucifer moved in closer to her. You can't tell anyone about this. I can't? Why not? They deserve to know. He grabbed her hand. I don't know how you were able to even see that. What Phaedra did, you should have only seen your own memories. So how it was possible for you to see that, I don't know. I had no idea that that's what you were seeing before I intervened, but I'm glad I stopped it when I did. Portia, feeling braver, stood up a bit taller and looked him in the eye. Why is that? What else would I have seen? Lucifer squeezed her hand, and a lightning bolt of pain shot up her arm into her neck. She cried out and pulled her hand away. You forget who you're talking to, he said firmly. Portia bowed and backed away slightly. What else would you have seen? Lucifer asked. Let me show you. He reached forward and touched her lips, and she collapsed on the floor next to Aiden. Chapter 28. Lucifer allowed me to see this, and I'm going to share it with you as I did the other memories. After placing Lucifer's followers in the pit and locking Lucifer in his own home, God stayed away from heaven longer than he ever had before. As usual, he had nothing to say about where he had been or what he was doing when he returned. He visited Lucifer first, walking through the front door of his home and finding him sitting in the same chair as before. Lucifer stood up immediately and ran to God, arms open wide. God held out his hands and pushed him back. Lucifer looked at him, confused. Stay back, God said, and Lucifer did. Have you had time to think about what you've done? Yes, sir, Lucifer said, bowing. Do you have anything to say for yourself? I'm sorry, I asked you to give this place a name. This place without me. You never gave me an answer. I'd like that answer now. A name? What? I don't understand. You're getting a home of your own, God said. The compromise would have been a better option, but you weren't interested in that. You had to go after the whole thing, and look at where it got you. I've created another place for you and your followers, and as soon as it has a name, you'll all be going there. Another place? I need a name. What would you call it? You're going to be the ruler, so you might as well decide what the name will be. Hell, Lucifer said. Hades. Hell. He looked around his parlor. That's what I've come to call this place since you left. He looked at God with longing and sadness. You've been gone so long. God ignored him and walked back toward the door. Come on, we need to round up the others and head on to... Which do you prefer? Hell or Hades? Lucifer looked down at the floor. Either one, he mumbled. Doesn't matter. Excellent. Let's go. God removed the cover from the pit and ordered his angels to lead Lucifer's followers up and out of the hole. They were happy to be above ground, and Lucifer waved to them as they climbed the stairs to come back up to the surface. They had a lot of questions for both God and Lucifer, but were told that they would be answered later. Hell exists in another dimension that can be accessed through an ordinary-looking blue door standing in the edge of a field in heaven. The door is guarded at all times by two of God's angels. God opened the door and gestured for Lucifer to go through first, and Lucifer's followers filed in behind him. They found themselves inside of a large white auditorium. The seats, floor, stage, handrails, and lights were all a stark white, to the point of almost blinding everyone in the room. They complained among themselves quietly. This is it, God said. Have a look around. Those doors, he pointed towards several exits. All of those doors lead to other parts of hell or Hades or whatever. It's all yours. With that, God nodded and headed back toward the door to leave. Angels shouted questions at him, but he kept walking. He stopped just before opening the door and looked back. Lucifer? Lucifer, come here. Lucifer came running, still slightly hopeful. Yes, sir. I almost forgot. God felt around in his jacket pockets for a moment, then pulled out a small, plain brass headpiece. This is for you. he said, handing it over. Lucifer took the gift and turned it over in his hands. He thanked God, but he sounded a little unsure. God took the item and placed it on Lucifer's head. "It's your crown," he said. "You now have the kingdom you wanted, so I made this for you. Don't share it with the others." He looked around, then leaned in and whispered in Lucifer's ear, "It'll give you more power than the others, so you can rule more effectively. Don't ever let them get a hold of it. They could use it against you. Understand?" "Yes, sir. Can I?" "Go ahead, look at it." Lucifer delicately reached up and lifted the crown off his head, and he studied it closely. "It's plain," God said. "I don't want you to forget who's really in charge, but it works. Handle it with care, and don't ever let it out of your sight." "Thank you." Lucifer put the crown back on his head. "I made it myself," God said. He was proud. "You made a beautiful crown," Lucifer told him. "Go explore," God said. "This is your home now. Make the best of it." God turned back toward the door, but Lucifer stopped him. "When are you coming back?" he asked. God looked at him. "I'm not," he said, and he left without another word. Chapter 29. I know why Lucifer wanted me to experience that memory. It wasn't just so I could understand the significance of the crown, which I did, but so I could also feel the pain he felt when he learned that God was leaving him for good. I felt his pain, his heartbreak at that moment, and I understood why he had been willing to try anything to get him to stay. He ended up losing God completely, but it made sense to me that he desperately wanted him to stay. I woke up on the floor after the memory ended, and I sat up and looked at Lucifer. "That was awful," I said. "He treated you like you were an afterthought. Was it always like that?" I now have a very happy cat on my lap. Sorry, she had to come in here. "For the most part," he said. "I spent so much time trying to get his attention, begging him to stay. We ended up here. That's all I accomplished." "But you still care. You still want to be with him." Lucifer nodded. "Of course I do. We were made to worship and adore him, to serve him. It's all I've ever wanted to do." We sat together on the sofa in his office for a moment. Aiden was on the floor in a state like a deep sleep. I placed a pillow under his head. "Can we wake him up now?" I asked. "The things I saw, I want to make sure we understand each other before we bring him back into the conversation. We need to reach an agreement. You want me to keep quiet about the compromise that God offered you." Lucifer stood up and approached his desk. He opened one of the larger drawers and pulled out the crown that God had made for him, and he held it up for me to see. "That's it," I said, slowly standing up. "Why don't you ever wear it?" "I really don't see the need. No one here challenges my authority. It feels unnecessary. I just don't want to wear it, so I don't." "With all due respect, why are you showing it to me?" He closed the drawer and came out from behind the desk, crown in hand. "I want to lend it to you," he said, walking toward me. "Wear it while you're on Earth, just in case Phaedra tries anything dirty or underhanded. It could be useful. Don't show it off. Put it on, but turn it backwards. Keep it hidden under your hair as well as you can. You'll have more power on Earth with it, but we need to keep it secret." "Aiden will notice it," I said. "What do I tell him?" "Just tell him I'll let you borrow it. If he has any questions, he can come talk to me." "He won't be satisfied with that answer." "As I said, have him come to me." He glanced down at Aiden. "I think we can bring him back now, if we have a deal." "A deal?" "I'll lend you the crown in exchange for your discretion." I looked at Aiden and felt a sudden rush of sadness. It came out of nowhere, but I couldn't ignore it. "We could have been so much happier," I said. "Maybe not you, but the rest of us. You know we would have chosen the compromise." Having our own galaxy would have been so much better than this. You have no way of knowing that, Lucifer said. What if? No, sir. I bowed. I mean no disrespect, but anything would have been better than what we went through. Fighting a battle, being stuck in that pit, having to deal with humans. I looked down at Aiden again. You're not the only one separated from the one you love. It's unfair, punishing all of us because God's never around. Lucifer moved in closer. What would be the point of putting the word out now? He asked. Just to plunge the knife in a little deeper? What's done is done. We can't go back and change it, so why let the others know? Everyone has become accustomed to their fate. Leave it be. You said that you didn't want to accept the compromise because God wouldn't be around. That's correct. What if you approach him when he returns and ask him for another chance? This time, though, you ask him to be a part of our lives in our own galaxy. Let him know that would benefit all of us, and it would mean he wouldn't have to decide what to do with us when we inevitably lose the battle on Earth, just like we did in heaven. You don't know who will win on Earth. God will never accept a loss, sir. I believe we both know that. He will always win one way or another. Lucifer looked away for a minute and then back at me. Will you keep quiet about the compromise? You have to promise me that you'll ask God to consider rethinking it, with him remaining part of our lives. He may not even want to hear it. He could just come back, tally up the souls, and declare a winner. You have to at least try. Promise me you'll give it your best shot, and I'll stay quiet. He grinned. You realize you're literally making a deal with the devil. I smiled back. Yes, sir. He held out his hand and I shook it. I'll do my level best, he said. And you can't say a word or hint at anything, not to anyone, ever. Not even Aiden. He may have questions about what I said to you when I first woke up earlier. I called you a liar. He heard that. Lucifer shook his head. I'll wipe that away when I wake him up. You probably have some things you want to say to him after everything you just remembered. I felt a pain in my chest. It's all because of me. I knew that in the past, but I lived a life on Earth and forgot about it for a while. It's back. I looked at Aiden, then back at Lucifer. I hate this. He made a decision based on his love for you, Lucifer said. But what for? I cried. Based on what? We hardly knew each other back then. Why would he make such a... What did you see in the things you remembered? I can tell you about the conversation we had when he came to see me. I saw that. Then you know. I thought about it for a moment. He told you he wasn't going to leave me to go through this alone. Lucifer nodded. What do I do with this information? I don't understand, and I don't know how to feel about it. Some things have to be taken as they are. Appreciate them. You're overthinking this. He meant what he said. I made sure of that before I let him join our side. He took my hands in his. He loves you now, and he loved you then. You have no reason to feel guilty about anything, and frankly, I wish you'd just let it go. It's been long enough. Just enjoy what you two have together. Be glad that you can be together at least part of the time. He could be in heaven right now. If we'd never met, that's where he'd be. No, he'd likely be on Earth trying to steal souls away from our side. That's where most of them are at this point. Either way, you can't change the past, and even if you could, would you want to? It would mean that he and I wouldn't be together. It would. No, I wouldn't want that. Lucifer knelt down and slowly lifted Aiden up to a seated position. He still appeared to be asleep. Aiden wouldn't want that either, he said, pulling Aiden up to his feet. I know him well enough to be sure of that. He smoothed out Aiden's hair and massaged his hands. Aiden just stood there, eyes closed, looking like a mannequin. You won't remember what you said, Lucifer whispered as he brushed his hand across Aiden's cheek. Remember our deal. Yes, sir, I said. Are you ready? I am. Please bring him back. Lucifer stepped away and Aiden opened his eyes. He immediately grabbed me and hugged me. No, no, he kept saying, and he held me tight. I know what you saw. You only saw the bad things. He pushed back a little and looked at me. Let me show you. He kissed me and said again, let me show you. Everything went dark, like I'd closed my eyes, but just briefly. As the light came back, I felt myself moving backward, and I saw Aiden in front of me. The light changed to a silvery color, and I looked around. Lucifer and his office were gone, and Aiden and I were in the middle of a frozen lake. We were skating together. What do you remember? He asked. Tell me everything you saw. I looked up and thought back. The sky above us was lit up with stars. We made a graceful turn and headed back toward the center of the lake. You're here because of me, I said, looking back down at him. You didn't want me to go through this alone. I saw the battle, the pit we were in, all the... I stopped myself. Aiden slowly came to a halt on the ice, and so did I. All the what? He asked. Go on. I saw everything we had to leave behind forever when we were let out of heaven. Hot tears welled up in my eyes. You should be there now. Nobody deserves to be in heaven more than you do. You're right, he said, and everything went dark again. Chapter 30. Aiden took Portia back to heaven before the war at that time. He stood alongside her and replayed the memories for her to see and feel again, and this experience allowed things to come back to her more gently. Phaedra forced you to see a lot of the negative things, he said to her as the light around them brightened up the scene in front of them. Portia wasn't sure what she was looking at initially. I never should have let her get that close to you, Aiden said. You didn't even know she was there. What could you have done? I still feel guilty, he said, and he took her hand and squeezed it, just like you. I have a reason. Aiden put a finger to her lips. No. Stop. He nodded at the scene in front of them. Look at that. What is this? It's a path leading into the woods. Don't you recognize it? She looked at it more closely. What's in those woods? It's not what's in the woods, Aiden said. It's what's on the other side. Come on. Still holding her hand, they started down the path and into a thick forest full of old, tall trees and ferns. Listen, Portia said, and she stopped. Aiden stopped beside her. I hear music? She looked around. It's the trees, the plants, everything. She listened a little longer and then nodded. It's coming from the trees. All the living things. They're singing. Talking to each other. Singing. Every living thing here does that. Listen. Portia did listen. She closed her eyes and leaned back a little. I remember. Oh. She seemed a little upset when she added, I've missed this place. We had some really good times here, Aiden said. They walked on down the path to a clearing, and Portia saw the meadow just below her house. I'm home, she said, and she started walking a little faster. Every step she took brought back more and more of her memories with Aiden. She stopped and turned to look at him. He was still holding her hand and kept up with her pace. Where? He smiled a little. Where? Portia shook her head and kept walking, trying to hide her own smile. They went up the hill and into her home. The front porch and parlor were as warm and welcoming as always. I really loved it here, she said, looking around. We spent time together here. Aiden kissed her on the cheek. We did. I'm glad we made the most of it before the war. The scene changed to Aiden's house. Portia looked around. I've seen this recently, she said. How about the flowers? Aiden asked. What flowers? Your flowers. She looked at him quizzically, and he chuckled. Of course she wouldn't show you that. Come on. He led her outside and down to the meadow. See? He gestured to the area in front of them. See what? These flowers? Is that what you were talking about? You're responsible for these. Portia knelt down and gently touched the little yellow flowers dancing in the breeze just in front of her. They had bright yellow petals and brown centers, and they stood on tall, dark green stems. She glanced back up at Aiden. How am I responsible? You brought colors into my life that I'd never seen before. Just you. You gave me the ability to see these beautiful flowers. Portia stood back up, still looking at the field full of yellow. I don't understand, she said. Were they here the whole time and you couldn't... In a flash, they were both back inside Aiden's house, and they were in his workroom. Easels were set up along the walls, and canvases in various stages of completion were set up on multiple tables. He pointed at one stack of canvases to their left. Let's look at these, he said, and he picked up the first two for Portia to see. What do you think? He said. How would you describe these? She studied them for a moment. They're very beige. Sorry, No, you're correct. They're definitely beige. These are landscapes. He lifted up the other paintings in the stack so she could see that the rest were painted in browns and grays as well. Before I met you, he said, that's how mostly all of my work looked. But then... He walked over to another, shorter stack of paintings, and he lifted up the top one for her to see. It was quite large, and he held it out with both hands. Whoa, Portia said, and she backed up a bit so she could see it better. It was a landscape done up in almost neon colors with a striking blue sky, flowers and trees in every color imaginable, and rocks shimmering in silver and copper. That's yours? She said, glancing back at the other paintings. You did that? I painted this the night I first saw you. Something about you. I had no idea at the time how much you would affect me, but then I came home and painted this. He held the painting slightly to the side for a moment so he could look at it with her. I'd never painted anything like this before, he added. All that because you happened to see me out there on the skating rink? Come on now. I don't believe it. I was so glad I had to drop off some sketches in person, Aiden said. It put me in your path that night, and it changed my life. He set the painting down and lifted up a few more for her to see. They look like... She leaned in and studied the detail in one of them. I'm remembering something. Something from our time here? No, it's a name. Maybe from Earth. I don't know. Lisa Frank? Aiden laughed, and he glanced at the painting. I can see that, Lisa Frank. He set the painting down and smiled. Who's Lisa Frank? Let's not worry about that right now. The point is, I can see beautiful things now. You're a part of my life, and you made it possible. I'm happy. That makes a big difference. I think about you every year when the brown-eyed Susans bloom. Everywhere I see them. Even when we're not together, you're always on my mind, and it makes me happy just to see them. They give me hope somehow that one day we'll be able to be together again. So, he moved away from the paintings and took Portia's hands. You said you remembered our time together after the war. I do. In the pit? She shuddered. Ugh, don't remind me. No, it wasn't all bad. That's just all you were shown. Aiden, we were stuck in a hole in the ground for a very, very long time. It was a hole. I know, but that's when we really got to know each other. He studied her face and smiled a little. You told me you loved me for the first time down there. Portia felt a warm feeling in her chest, and her eyes lit up at the memory. I did. You're right. You remember? I do. There's more. The images of Aiden's house faded away, and Portia realized that they were back in the pit. It was dark, but not completely. The ambient light from the angels' bodies always provided a bit of a glow. Portia saw an image of Aiden and herself sitting up against the dirt wall nearby. Their eyes were closed, and Portia's head was resting on Aiden's shoulder. We could sleep here, Aiden whispered to her as she watched their images. We slept. We dreamt the same dreams. We imagined a life together where we could be free. He held her hand a little tighter. We could do whatever we wanted. Portia closed her eyes. She remembered the dreams. Little pieces of memories came back to her. It was so good to be home. We went on to Earth together after this, she said after a moment, and she opened her eyes. We worked together at first, with the humans. We were all allowed to pair up initially, if we wanted to. Lucifer decided later that it was more efficient for us to work alone. But oh, that's right. Portia remembered their meetups on Galiate. That's why you wanted to skate with me. You wanted your Christmas present to be a night spent skating with me. Winterfest. I remember it. She turned to Aiden, suddenly excited at the memories coming back. Aiden was about to respond when a look of concern crossed her face. It wasn't all good, she said. Some of it was horrible. Are you talking about dealing with humans? She nodded. Those situations can get pretty sticky, but we always managed it. We worked so well together. Portia looked down in front of them, and the scene in the pit appeared to be frozen. She waved her hands slowly back and forth, and the scene gradually changed to a mob of humans fighting in the middle of a forest. They threw one another down and bashed each other with rocks and tree branches. What the hell is that? Portia cried, backing up. She started to wave her hand and erase the scene, but Aiden stopped her. No, let it play. This is heaven. That is not heaven. Just keep watching. A big burly man walked out into a clearing lit up by a full moon. He looked around at the chaos nervously, and Aiden's image came up beside him and placed a hand on his shoulder. Aiden and Portia watched the scene play out. You get 3, Aiden's image told the man. Aiden's lips moved along with his image as he uttered the words, and then the image added, Use them wisely. The man quickly pointed out 2 of the fighters. Are you sure? Aiden's image asked. Portia tensed up as she watched this. I remember, she said quietly. I remember this. It's not English they're speaking. I hear it that way, but I remember it's not. She instinctively looked off to her left where she knew her image was waiting. It sprang forth at Aiden's direction and grabbed one of the men by the throat. He tried to stop her, but she had his soul detached from his body in a matter of seconds. It floated in the air above the battle, watching its body drop to the ground. Get the other one, Portia whispered as she watched. Her image went straight to the other man that had been pointed out and gripped his shoulders. She gave him a hard shake, and his soul exited the top of his head. Leaping high in the air, she grabbed the second soul and held both of them close to her chest as she gently landed back on the ground. A few of the fighters watched the bodies fall and ran away, unsure of what was happening, but not wanting to risk meeting the same fate. Aiden's image approached Portia and looked at the 2 souls in her grip. Can you handle them? Of course. I'll be back. She kissed him on the cheek and then vanished. Aiden's image returned to the man who had ordered the killings. It's done, he said. You have 1 left. What do I do now? The man asked. What do? You lead. You direct. Take charge of this situation and make it known that the king has spoken. You are the king now. He gently placed a crown on the man's head, and the man turned to the ones still left in the clearing. My people, he shouted, we will have peace. Portia reappeared a few seconds later and stood by Aiden's side. They watched the new king lead the men out of the forest. Are they all set? Aiden's image asked as they watched. They are. He kissed her, and without another word, they fell in line behind the last man and headed back toward the people's village. The scene faded to black, and Portia looked at Aiden confused. That took place on Earth, she said. Do you remember how it felt to work together? All the scenarios we found ourselves in? I'm starting to. He placed his hand on her chest, and she felt a warm, calming sensation. Wow. She put her hand on his. That feels wonderful. The night that I just showed you, that's how I felt being there and working with you. What? Watching humans run around and hit each other like maniacs? I love our partnership and the way you can always anticipate what's coming next and what will be needed. You were always everything I'd ever wanted, and I knew it the first time I saw you. How did you know, though? I was a stranger to you. It was just there. It hit me like lightning, and everything changed. He gently pulled his hand away from her chest and stroked her hair. I have no idea, and I'm not going to question it. Some things just come to you. But what if I hadn't felt the same way? He smiled a slightly sad little smile. We won't think about that. Another scene opened up in front of them. They stood in another wooded area with yellow flowers all around and white chairs and a small golden platform. This place, Portia said, and she felt like she was dreaming. Her voice trailed off. Oh my. What do you think? It's beautiful. Not as beautiful as you were. Portia saw images of angels appear all around the area, some standing in front of the chairs and some around the perimeter of the clearing. Lucifer's image appeared on the platform, and Portia saw Aiden and herself holding hands and walking down the aisle together. I know this place too, she said, feeling around for Aiden's hand but not taking her eyes off the scene. She found his hand and gripped it tightly. Where? Aiden looked at her and waited, a little smile coming to the corners of his mouth. They heard Lucifer's short speech and welcoming words. He spoke briefly about the history of the relationship and everything the couple had been through together, their love growing over time, to bring them all together on a beautiful day on Earth. Aiden and Portia's images turned to face each other. I solemnly swear. Oh, Portia held up her hand and the scene froze. She looked at Aiden, her eyes glistening. We are, Aiden said, pulling her in close. We're married. Portia hugged him tightly. I had no idea, but it's coming back to me now. Aiden smoothed her hair and gently pushed it away from her face. I love you so much. She held on even tighter. I love you too. I've missed you. It's not like this on Earth. I hate that I have to leave you there, he said. You have no idea how hard it is to stay away. Portia stepped back enough to see his face. Then don't, she said, quickly wiping her eyes. Come with me. We could just leave. We could be together. Aiden shook his head. We can't. Not now, anyway. Maybe someday. Why not? Portia asked. What's the issue? Is it because I'm human? Or I was? So what? Break the rules. He kissed her. I've done that one time too many, and I'm going to have to answer for that once this whole thing is over. I can't just do what I want to do, no matter how bad I want to do it. His face softened, and he nodded at the frozen scene. Do you remember where this was? The place? We were married on Earth. We were working in that area at the time. But where on Earth? That's North America. Oh my, I do remember. That? She moved in closer to the image of the scene and studied it. Oh wow. No wonder. No wonder what? She looked back at Aiden with her hands on her hips. I always wondered why I felt such a strong connection to Greensboro. She looked back at the scene. Here it is. That's why. This place is in Greensboro, long before the city existed. The ceremony took place on the spot that now holds the steps to West Market Street United Methodist Church, Aiden said. That makes ours the first wedding ceremony that was ever held there. Portia started to say, and then stopped for a moment as if she was trying to recall something. Aiden waited. I'm Portia Gervais. Yes, you are. She thought about it for a moment and smiled. I like that. And we are going to stop there and pick up with chapter 31 next time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that little segment right there. And thank you so much for being here. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again soon.